I'm not going to play that. I might talk about that though. Something really cool crossed my radar this week that I hope to get to before I sign off for today. It is July 1st. Happy 1st of July. And hope everybody's having a good summer. Things are pretty calm out here. Weather's really nice and not sweating like I normally am on Friday afternoons. It's a little afternoon here when I'm getting to this. Got a few things. Actually, I'm going to start with this. Yesterday I was practicing. Yeah, I know. There's one part in Bethina that has been driving me nuts for 20 years, and it's that. It's the absolute, for me, it's the absolute hardest part in the song. And I always every time I get there, I keep hoping it's going to work. And what I had to do was just isolate it and do those 2 or 3 beats, do 2 beats of it together. Until you couldn't miss it. Okay. Driving you nuts yet? Let me see if I can add the next chord to it. Nope. Oh, that was it. You know what? I could do it slower. Ugh! Nope. That's what it's supposed to sound like. Look, it's a further move than you think. Gotta look down there. Nope. Okay. I should just sign off and get back to practicing. All right, here it comes again. Not good enough. Okay, never mind. What happened this week? Had a couple of cool tunes. Vanessa put together a tune for us, Mr. Rock and Roll, and another Amy MacDonald tune. And I got to finally, after a month or 2 of promising this one, there's a nice little cool piano part in there. Nope. Going into the chorus. Beautiful tune. The James Taylor tune. That's, of course, Copperline. And want to thank folks for recommending that in the first place. And I really started that years ago, but it fell off the radar. Anyway, it's done. Hope you enjoyed it, or hope you have had a chance to take a look at it. Another interesting request that came up this week was Paul Cotton, Indian Summer. And videos of Paul, there aren't too many of Paul playing this, but there's a later one. Actually, even in the old one, he's playing his Gretsch White Falcon. Beautiful guitar. I remember seeing the first picture I ever saw of that. I think it was the Neil Young album, After the Gold Rush. No, it wasn't in After the Gold Rush. Might have been in a picture in Deja Vu, or Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. Anyway, one of those 3 albums. I'm sure somebody can set me straight. But first time I'd ever heard of those guitars, and of course now they're thousands, maybe tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. But anyhow, so there's a cool video of Paul Cotton playing Indian Summer, which turned out to be one of only a couple of their tunes that ever charted. Poco, aside from Crazy Love, which was later, they were just, as Richie Furay put it, they were too country for rock and too rock for country, and they just, couldn't find that middle ground. But the question about Indian Summer, I don't think I'll get to a lesson on that, but I might. It does use some interesting chords. I'm going to give you a few of the chords right now. His first noodling around is around kind of a D major 7, and in live versions, you hear him doing something like that. recognize that? Anyway, Bob Skaggs instrumental from one of his, it's not from the first album, second or third. Could have been the fourth one. Could have been, what was that fourth one that had We Were Always Sweethearts? My Time, Moments. Could have been from Moments. Anyway, but I digress. And it's also very similar to Albatross, another tune that I've talked about doing for years. Okay, I was going to give you a little bit more hint on Indian Summer. It's noodling around on a D major 7 chord. We barely hear the major 7th in there, but we hear him playing a D major 7, and it's not in an alternate tuning. There was a question about that. What we see later on is an E minor, a G minor 7, done the jazzy way rather than the full barred way, and a C9. There you go. That's most of the song. Goes to G major 7 in the bridge or the chorus. Okay, I have 2 other bigger things I want to talk about. Wait a minute. First one was good. Oh, those 2 good ones. 3. Not good enough. Really not good enough. Take that needle off the record. Okay, maybe someday soon I'll be able to get through the whole thing. This is, of course, the second part to this. Gotta fine-tune those harmonics. That was better. Yeah, finally after 5 minutes of wrestling with that piece, it ends. Okay, now the next big thing I have to tell you about is a dear friend of ours that is now part of our International Guitar Camp crew that joined the camp last year for the first time. Was kind of inspired by camp and meeting people and playing her songs for people. And I want to tell you about my friend Kathy Belleville, who has now, a year later, less than a year later, finished an album of original tunes, and they are fabulous. It's called 3/4 Girl. It's available today, official release July 1st. And there's a link down below in the text, wherever you're reading this, not necessarily at YouTube, but at least on the TG forum, where, no, I'll get this in the YouTube text too. I think I can do that. To her album, you can listen to some of it, you could buy it, you could tell all of your friends about it, and there are a great range of tunes, from ones that will make you smile, ones that will make you crack up, to ones that will bring a tear to your eye. So be sure to check out Kathy Belleville's album, 3/4 Girl. Let's see. Now, the other thing that I had fun, I've been doing I think I mentioned last week, or the last couple of weeks, one of the things that has sort of sidetracked me from getting a lot of lessons done. We're doing the right key. There we go. Okay, never mind. Sorry, stay away from Dave Brubeck. was trying to clean up the TG forum. No, not the forum. The forum is good. The blog. That's where I was going. And so I've been kind of reorganizing it, getting a lot of menus and stuff up there that to make it much easier to get to whatever you want. If you want to see Muriel Anderson stuff, there's under our friends. You can go right to Muriel or Mike Mullins, or let's see, what else do we have in there? Then there's the old blogs. So we have kind of like the current blogs, which are the main one that has like news on it and stuff like that, and then still acoustic snapshots. And I stumbled into a video that my friend Larry made many years ago now. I don't know, about 10, maybe less, 8 or 10. The Totally Guitars story. It opens up with me playing classical gas. Get the right strings, Neil. Sitting right here in front of the TG sign. I think the signed sign. Anyway, and that would be sine squared. No, is that 2 cosines? Stop. Where was I going with this? The video. So one that was really cool that Larry put together was called The Totally Guitars Story. And it kind of had, Matt and I shot different parts of it at different times talking about TG. Matt shot his, he was living in Florida at the time. So there's scenes of him at the beach talking about even our first encounter back in 2006 or 7, whenever that was. And then a couple of years later, how we started Totally Guitars. So that was kind of cool to, relive stuff. And then so there were a lot of these from the old blogs, like the Listening Post, Vintage, what was it called? Vintage Snapshots, Music Gear Reviews. There were a whole bunch of separate old blogs that were, theme, like really specific, just about one thing, Luthier's Corner. And those have all been like reconsolidated now, or back into having their own spot on the menu. So you can have a lot of fun checking out the new version of the blog and pouring through old videos. One that I finished just recently, like a couple nights ago, was Making Music, and this was our friend Jack and the folks at Guitar Showcase shot a lot of stuff that had videos, showing things at Showcase, like the vintage room and different instruments and stuff. And then they had done a TV series that had all these episodes of Making Music, talking, interviewing local musicians and things like that. So about at least 50 or 60 of those are now back in with links that actually work under the classic blogs menu. It's about the 4th or 5th one over to the left as you're looking at that. So, and speaking of Guitar Showcase, a lot has changed over there. If anybody's been there, if you've been here to San Jose and been into Guitar Showcase, their old building is now was torn down and is being turned into a living space with like 5 floors of apartments or something. And they had to move all of the stuff into into what used to be their warehouse. One floor, about a third of the size. I'm hoping I can get Larry, our video guy, to get out there and do some more work with Jack and let everybody know what's going on at Guitar Showcase. Anyway, and that's of course where our IGC teacher Jim Bruno lives and hangs out. So. Anyway, so I did see that was where I was going with that, is those Making Music videos are really, really cool. It also had me stumble into one that led me to this. I did a lesson many years ago on Guess Who tune, Undone. And back then I had run into a friend that I had known from our softball days with our girls playing softball together, who had done a lot of singing and bass playing in local cover bands that would play parties and wedding receptions and stuff like that. And so Jim Ford was his name, and Jim unfortunately passed away a few years ago. The heart got to him. And so it was really interesting to run into this video. It was called Behind the Scenes. It was like part 9 of my lesson on Undone. And we just sat like right here and Shot the news for a little while, and then decided to try playing the tune. I think we did a couple takes on it. I only watched about the first 10 minutes of it recently. I got to get the rest of it. It's like a half an hour long or something. But encourage you to check out under, that one is under lesson previews. So that's another one of under the classic blogs thing. Lesson previews is another. There's fly on the wall lessons in there and all kinds of other stuff. So enough rambling about. I think I'm about done playing with the blog. I think I've found everything in there, which means I can finally get back to work on that. That's my plan for next week. And every time I say that, something gets in the way. But I'm hoping to finish my Bruce Coburn lesson for next week. Nesh is working on a tune by the Five Satins. Yeah, I know. You're going to have to look that up. Find out what you know. Or tell me what you know about the Five Satins before you go to Wikipedia and find out and see what's happening there. So that's what we have on the docket for the next couple weeks. I think that's all. Oh, I got a tip. Let's see. Today's tip. D major 7, D7, G major 7, G7. Does everybody know the difference between major 7th chords and dominant 7th chords? When we call a chord 7, we don't mean major 7 and we don't mean minor 7. If we need a more official term for it, we call it dominant 7. For a really good reason. Hopefully you know that when we have 3 chords in a key, let's do the key of G. In the key of G, I've got in every key we've got 3 major chords, 1, 4, and 5, G, C, and D. And if I expand those triads into being 7th chords, if I do it with chord 1, G, and add the 7th of the scale, the note would be F sharp. Well, you should know that this is not a G7 chord. You probably know a G7 chord, and it has F natural in it. Well, the definition, of course, of the chord we call 7 is not 1, 3, 5, 7. It's 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Would have an F natural in it. That's G7, G major 7, and if it has the real 7th in it, 1, 3, 5, 7, F sharp, it's major 7. So chord 1 in the key of G is G major as a triad. If I make it a 7th chord, it's G major 7. If I make it G7, it's not in the key anymore. Not a choice. Now, it doesn't mean it never gets used. It gets used all the time. When I go to chord 4, though, now a C chord in the key of G. If I add its 7th in the key of G, it'd be C, E, G, B natural. You also should know that this is not a C7 chord because it has B natural in it, the real 7th of the C major scale. To make it C7, I have to flat that 7th, making it a B flat. So C7 is not in the key of G, C major 7 is, just like G major 7 is. When I get to chord 5, D in this case, by the way, is if I add its 7th, D, F sharp, A, C natural, that's a flatted 7th because in the key of D, the 7th note would be C sharp. So if I add C sharp to a D chord, I have D major 7. If I add C natural, the flatted 7th, I have D7. So the definition of a 7th chord that we just call 7, not major 7, is 1, 3, 5, flat 7. A major 7th chord, the formula is 1, 3, 5, 7. Now what we just found when I played the chords in the key of G is that if I turn chord 1 into a 7th chord, it's a major 7th chord. Same is true of chord 4. If I add its natural 7th, I get major 7, C major 7. But if I do that on chord 5 and add the 7th that's in the scale, it turns out that it's a flatted 7th. That's why D7 is chord 5 in the key of G, and step 5 is called the dominant step of the key. Get the connection? The dominant step is the only place that type of 7th chord occurs naturally. Step 5 of whatever key you're in. So Again, steps 1 and 4, if you make them 7th chords, they're major 7ths. You do it on step 5, and it becomes a flatted 7th, and we consequently carry that name over to use the term dominant for any chord that has a flatted 7th in it, with one other catch. It has to be a major triad to begin with. It has to have a major 3rd in it and then a flatted 7th, which gives us this sound. Yikes! That's the F sharp and the C from a D7 chord. Pretty dissonant, huh? It's called a tritone. It needs to resolve. Those notes need to get further apart or closer together. A tritone has to resolve with each note going a half step towards the other one, or away from the other one, in opposite directions. That's the best way to think about it. So my 2 notes here that make up D7 resolve to a G chord. But if I think of them not as a G7, not as a D7, they would resolve to a D flat. Yarks, you're kidding me. That's because it was an A flat 7 that had the same set of notes in it. Okay. Getting too far, heading off into the world of tritone substitution. Way beyond what I should have even started talking about today. Okay, that's today's tip, is understanding the difference between major 7th chords and dominant 7th chords, and knowing that when we call a chord 7, we mean dominant 7. There's another category of these, and those are 7th chords built on minor triads, and that's the other 3 chords in the key. And those all turn out to be minor 7th chords. There's no real variation in those. So the other 3 chords in the key of G, the 3 minor chords, A minor, B minor, and E minor, could all be expanded to be A minor 7, B minor 7, and E minor 7. Okay, I may talk more about minor 7ths and stuff like that later, or in the near future. No chance I could remember that song. Hope everybody has a good holiday weekend. I'll be back next Friday.